Tell us about what you learned from those briefings.
Well, I make it a policy not to talk about specifics of classified briefings, so I really don't want to go into details. I think I'm a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, so I had a classified briefing the day before on the intelligence surrounding the Soleimani strike. So I didn't really learn much new in the briefing yesterday. I think what really got under people's skin, and no doubt you've seen Mike Lee's reaction, was the suggestion by the briefers that it was somehow unpatriotic or supporting the enemy or something like that to debate where we go from here on Iran. The fundamental question of war powers and Congress's role in deciding whether the country should commit to a war. And I think that was the sort of overall unclassified thing that really bothered people, was the suggestion that, you know, it was unpatriotic to even debate whether we should be going forward. And I certainly agree with Mike Lee on that one. I think it's not only something Congress might want to do, it's what Congress should do under its constitutional responsibility.
Senator, since you mentioned Mike Lee, let's just show the audience what Mike Lee said specifically, and then we can talk about it.
Sure.
Let's roll that tape for a second.
The briefing lasted only 75 minutes, whereupon our briefers left. This, however, is not the biggest problem I have with the briefing, which I would add was probably the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue, in the 9 years I've served in the United States Senate. What I found so distressing about that briefing was that one of the messages we received from the briefers was, do not debate, do not discuss the issue of the appropriateness of further military intervention against Iran. And that if you do, you'll be emboldening Iran.
So, Senator, you're saying you agree with Mike Lee?
Absolutely. I think, you know, over the years, the Congress has gradually abdicated its power, particularly in terms of committing the country to war, to the president, not just this president, but this goes back for many years. The last time Congress declared war was in 1942, and there have been these authorizations, one right after September 11th, one right before the Iraq War, neither of which apply to what's going on with Iran. So many of us are deeply concerned about this. Congress doesn't want to take these kind of votes. They don't want to take that responsibility. Presidents haven't usurped this power. Congress has given it away. But I think, as I say, what really bothered Mike yesterday, and you saw it in the clip, was the suggestion that we shouldn't be debating it because that emboldens the enemy.
Senator,
that just doesn't fly in terms of what our constitutional responsibility is.
Were you satisfied with the president and the administration's explanation for the killing of the commander?
Well, I think they've made a good case that this guy deserved to be killed, and nobody on this side of the ocean is mourning his death. I mean, he was a very, very dangerous and bad guy. The question that I had that I'm not fully satisfied is why last Friday? What had happened that provoked this rather startling strike at this particular moment in time? He's been a bad guy for 20 years, and both the Bush and the Obama administration had opportunities to take him out and decided not to because of the fallout, and we're already seeing the fallout. I think probably the most significant is 2 weeks ago there were protests in Iran against the Iranian regime, and now the protests in Iran are against us. We've essentially unified the Iranian people and undercut whatever success the maximum pressure the sanctions campaign was taking. The other piece, of course, is it now looks like there's an even chance we'll be pushed out of Iraq by the Iraqis. And ironically, one of Soleimani's goals was to get us out of Iraq, and we may have hastened that goal by this action. So I'm not. There's a lot of detail that we don't have about the strike. I think the timing still is subject to question, but the fallout is pretty negative. No matter when we did it,
Senator, the timing would have been questionable. It's just whether it was a good idea or not. And I looked at your notes, and you had, you know, there's a Ben Franklin close. You do the benefits and the
Sure.
things that aren't benefits, and you add them up. And you had 11 reasons why this was a bad move to kill Soleimani. You couldn't come up with a single reason. Well, you know, whether he orchestrated an attack on the U.S. Embassy, which is American territory, whether he killed 600 Americans and maimed 600 Americans, whether he's killed thousands of people, and we finally have a chance when he's ramping things up and still fomenting terrorism. He was called a terrorist by the Obama administration, that he was designated a terrorist.
Absolutely.
So to just keep saying, why now, why now, why now, without coming up with a single positive that could result from this, seems to me that we've taken partisan rancor, even to where killing a terrorist, you can't say it's a good thing because Trump is a bad guy.
You didn't ask me that question. If you had said, are there positives to taking out Soleimani, I would say absolutely there are. He was a mastermind, and he had a great deal of charisma. He had influence over the proxies in the region. As the president said, he has blood on his hands, particularly of Americans in Iraq during the Iraq struggle. And that was, there's no question, he was a terrible guy, and taking him out is a positive, but you have to also weigh that against the negatives. And at this very moment, I mean, we'd be having a very different discussion right now if the Iranian missiles had killed Americans night before last. 24 hours ago, we were on the brink of a serious war. And so you have to weigh all of those things together. And I'm just not sure. But clearly, as I said at the very beginning, Soleimani was a bad guy. It's a good thing that he's gone. The question is, on balance right now, has it improved? Has it made us safer in the Middle East? Has it made Americans safer in that region? I don't think so.